Bring them out. IronE Singleton, Quinton Aaron. Let them hear it so that they know it's time to come out. Come on, Atlanta. There they are.
Brother Q picked the seat first. Because y'all saw what he did to me in the movie, so I got to let him choose where he wants to sit first.
Respect.
I don't want any more of the smoke. I don't want the smoke.
And that's no lie, because you played ball.
I did play ball at
Say
UGA. Is that a gator? That's not a gator. Okay, I'm looking at your shirt. I see the blue, but I'm like, oh, yeah, is that a gator on there? I played ball at UGA. Go Dogs.
So you're a happy man right now. Times two.
You said it right. Happy. We get 2 happies per championship.
That's 4 happies.
That's 4 happies.
Wait, and they're consecutive. So I think that's there's a math term for that. That's an exponential growth. I think that's 16 happies.
Yeah, 4 to the 4th power. No, that's even math.
That's even math. That's a lot.
We getting into math now.
No.
C square equals A square plus B square.
Let's not talk about math.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I need a redo.
That didn't work.
That didn't work.
How's everybody doing?
How's everybody doing? It's a little bit. It's getting there.
It's getting there. So
we
maybe
try to
towards
third
the
time's
end.
a charm. You know. How's everybody doing?
There we go.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Very nice.
Got to wake them up post lunch. I think
Right.
is what it is. A lot of floor walking, a little bit of lunch. Now they're ready to go.
Exactly.
Now you guys have got them ready to go. Let's talk about The Blind Side. Has it really been 14 years?
14 years, yeah.
That is insane when you think that the last 2.5 years of our lives actually took 10 years. So what? It's been like 47 years, I think, since The Blind Side came out with that kind. We're into math again, though. I think.
Yeah,
so maybe
I think
stop.
we're doing dog plus cat years.
Yeah, something.
He carried the 2. He carried the 2.
Yes.
You got to tell me when you carry the 2. You got to say it.
Exactly.
You can't just carry the 2 in your mind. You got to speak.
14 years. That's crazy. What?
Yeah.
What? Okay. Let's lead up to that then. Where did you guys start? Where did your acting start to get you to 2009?
I think it was on stage. Honestly, I think we both come from theater backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
So I started acting when I was 9 and played. Well, I started acting before that. I was acting at home, driving my mom crazy because
That's called acting out.
Exactly, I was acting out because I thought I was Batman and Michelangelo, the Ninja Turtle, and James Bond. But see, my James Bond character rubbed my mom the wrong way because I was very rude. And I would wear my one good suit that was for church. And when I walked around the house, I would never answer her when she calls me because she didn't call me Bond. So I told her one day, after she called me 17 times, "Madam, you will address me as Bond and nothing else." And she took her shoe off. "I got your Bond."
I was going to say, I'll bet that went over like a lead balloon.
Exactly.
Next day, you know you were waking up, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, where am I? All right.
Yeah, but then she signed me up for drama in school, and man, my bullies became my fans, and that was it for me. The response that I got from being on stage and feeling the energy of the audience reacting to what I wanted them to react to, the way I wanted them to react, it just kind of gave me a new perspective, and I had so much fun doing it too. So that was the icing on the cake, and I was just drawn from there. I was like, "Mom, I want to be an actor."
And most parents are like, "Sure, yeah, sure." I'm sure
yeah.
exactly how that went down. I'm sure.
Yeah, well, my mom was a big believer in, once you make up your mind on what you want to do, you have to believe in yourself. Do you believe you can do this? If so, how hard are you willing to work to achieve it? And she asked me this one important question. She said, if you had to do this every day of your life and you didn't get paid, you didn't make a dime from doing it, would you still love it? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, that's how you know you're meant to do it. Because it's when you're doing what you love, it's not about the money. It's about the joy that you get from the work. And for me, that's what it was growing up, doing theater for so many years. it was all about the joy. I didn't care if I got a trophy. I didn't care, even today. Like, if I'm not in this industry to win Oscars. If I win one, that's cool. I appreciate it. Thank you. But that's not my mindset. I love creating content that moves people, that encourages and inspires them to be better in a world where that's lacking. Because there's so much need for improvement, so much need for love, and it's not enough of it. And so I'm just trying to spread that like COVID-22.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Amen.
Spread love like COVID-22.
There you go.
I wouldn't wear a mask if that's the case. And with COVID-22, I keep my mask off. I want all that love.
Exactly.
I see some people are. It seems as though you're still upset with me from being the bad guy in the movie. Y'all still got an attitude with me?
Hand up.
But no, this is my brother, and I love Q.
We squashed it. We squashed it.
Yes, we did. We squashed it, and Leanne forgave me. So we're good now.
So you're good. I'm still trying to get over the fact that you had bullies. Was there a late growth spurt?
Yeah, well, the growth spurt was always coming. I was always the biggest kid in class, but I was a teddy bear. You know what I mean? I didn't want to fight. You know, I grew up with a mom and a brother, and you know, I never had a father figure in my life. The only father figure that was around when I was younger taught me the kind of guy I didn't want to become because he was abusive to my mom. So I just, you know, I thank him for that. You know, because a lot of people look up to their father figures and they become them. I didn't want to become that. So I thank him for showing me who not to become, because imagine me 6'8", a giant, and a predator. You know what I mean? Like, that's scary. But because of that, I'm such a advocate for, you know, fighting against domestic abuse. You know, I don't put up with that. You know, I will become a grizzly bear. This teddy bear will become a grizzly bear if I find a man putting his hands on a woman in a way that, you know, is unloving, you know, to say the least. But yeah,
it's a serious topic. You're terribly cast against type then in this role. Your strong protective instincts and everything else. Well, every parent teaches their child the kind of person they want to be. Now, whether that's positive or negative, you clearly made the correct choice. But every parent plays that role. And so, yeah, I guess you can thank that father figure for showing you, nope, not that road. And it's a gift to us that you have chosen the path that you're on and doing what you do in the way that you do it. So I thank him for that as well.
Thank you.
Well, after all, he did score 92% in protective instincts. So y'all remember that, right?
That is facts.
Yeah. So, hey, Dad, there you go. Now the ribbon begins with you. You weren't supposed to be here? What's the story with that? I'm going to answer your question, too. But I know Dan wanted us to give you a hard time.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did Dan tell you to give me a hard time?
Should we confess it? Yeah, he said yeah.
Oh. Dan snuck in. Everyone that doesn't know, that's Dan Farr. He runs this joint. So if you're having a good time, thank that guy right there. He's based in Salt Lake, and he's been very, very good to me over the last few years with what I do. And I try to help him out however I can. I do this. He allows me to do that. So thank you, sir. I appreciate it very, very much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dan is great. Hopefully we'll get you guys out to Salt Lake soon.
Hopefully so.
That would be great. So you get into acting how? Where do you start? You're a football player. What are you doing? Is this like a Mr. Holland's Opus where they grab the football players to do the play, or?
Well, no, it kind of turned into that somewhat similarly when I got to the University of Georgia. But formally, I started acting when I got to UGA. But before that, Q acted out, I acted up. And I say that because I grew up in the inner city. So I grew up in a housing project not too far from here, about 5 miles from here. It was called Perry Homes. And so, unlike Q, my mother wasn't really involved in my life. She was addicted to crack, and she was an alcoholic. So, and I lost her when I was 18 years old. She died from HIV complications. My father, he wasn't in my life, but like I told you, he just came back into my life like a few weeks ago. I hadn't seen him in like 37 years. So I ran the streets. I sold crack. The kids in here, Nancy Reagan said, say no to drugs. I'm going to reiterate that. Say no to drugs. But I sold crack. I carried a pistol. I lived that life. If you watch The Blind Side, my character, Alton, was basically who I could have become. I could have become him. But I found football. So that's how football was my outlet. So I played football to get my anger out. I had a lot of anger issues, and football and God. My faith was persistent. There was always something whenever, like there was this instance where my mom at one time, she put her knees on my arms, held me down, and she smashed cake and ice cream in my face. And at that time, I went in the bathroom and I said to myself, I said, you're gonna be somebody. That was my mantra. You're gonna be somebody. I constantly said that to myself. So I had to have those conversations with myself in order to encourage me, but that was God in me. I realized that was God in me just talking to me saying, you are necessary. You are here for a reason. I just kind of felt this at 8, 9, 10 years old, that there was something greater in me. And so I constantly said that to myself, and I played football, and then football got me to college, where I played for UGA, where when we were at our meetings, Mark, the guys, the coaches would say right before our meeting started, we watch our film, they call me Hustle Man. Because I hustled not just on the field, but off the field. Off the field, I sold cologne, because I hustled growing up in the hood, but I did legal hustling when I got to UGA. But I did illegal hustling in the hood. So they called me Hustle Man because of that. And I sold cologne, I sold incense, I sold underwear, I sold whatever, just to make a buck, just to make some money. But they would ask me to do a monologue. Right before our meeting started, they'd be like, all right, Hustle Man, do a monologue right quick. Go ahead and do one of those monologues. Out of the night. That covers me. I do monologues and all that stuff, so they love that. So that's where my formal education began. But when I was in elementary school, my aunt, whom I was introduced to by my father, at that time, my last time seeing my father, I was 11 years old. But at that time he introduced me, I was around 6, 7, somewhere in there. She introduced me, my father's sister introduced me to what was called the Bounty Program. I'm going to sum this up in about less than a minute, maybe, hopefully so. But the Bounty Program is where I was exposed to Shakespeare. I was introduced to Shakespeare. That's a more positive, operative term. I was introduced to Shakespeare, and I did Romeo and Juliet. And I was in a classroom full of, it was just me. I think I was probably the only black kid in there, and there was a room full of white kids. And I was doing this, and I had my inferiority complex going on, I think. Some of that I was dealing with. But when I started reading Shakespeare, I was as good as these white kids in there. And I was like, I'm pretty good. And so after that, I think that was what it started. That was the seed that was planted. Fast forward, Mark, to 17 years old, my English teacher told me that I had a very commanding speaking voice. And
True.
So instead, thank you. So she wanted me to speak instead of the valedictorian at an oratorical contest in the city. So in the city of Atlanta, I went up against the kids from the affluent neighborhoods, and I came in second place. So, wow.
That's awesome. That's what's up.
Thank you. And so I think that's when the flame was reignited. I was like, wow, I can do this. So I said, I'm going to go to UGA. I'm going to go to Kentucky State because my grades weren't good enough to get into UGA because I had to go to K-State, take some, what do they call the courses? The remedial courses to get on track. But those prerequisites, exactly. So I had to do that stuff, and I had to stay up night and day. You know how you did? You remember you were studying with Miss Sue.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to do the Miss Sue without a Miss Sue. And I studied around the clock. I had to expand my vocabulary. So I would read the dictionary, and learn these different words and all that stuff. And I became smarter in anything that revolved around education. I loved because it empowered me. And then I transferred to Georgia after that because I got a 3.8 that year at Kentucky State. I'd never gotten a 3.8 in my life. So,
well,
thank
That's great. I mean, because you were doing it for the academics, but like Quinton's mom said, if you want to do it, are you willing to put in the work? Mm-hmm. You're working for academics. You're working for acting, but it's the same thing. If you want it, are you willing? Are you willing to do the work? And clearly, both of you were willing to put in the work.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
So then you're at UGA. Are you footballing and you on stage?
I'm footballing and theatering.
And theatering.
Yeah, theatering. Yes.
Thespianating.
Yeah.
there's your word.
Right. And so my plan was to go pro, make a lot of money, make some big bucks, and then invest in my theater career because God told me that my mission in life, when my mother died, I was 18, and I had an epiphany. I found myself, I'm rewinding back to the projects just for a little bit. I found myself on my knees praying to God, and I was crying and I didn't want to live anymore, or either I wanted to take somebody else's life. I just didn't really care that much. And so I found myself on my knees praying, and I said, God, give me a sign. I need an answer. And at that time, a car came around the corner on the street where I lived, and its headlights reflected off my wall. And so I guess it was a combination of that and what I was going through in my head that illuminated the room. And it was almost like a sixth sense. And at that moment, God said, your job is to love and respect everybody you come into contact with.
That's a message for everyone.
Everybody you meet, in order to make your mother's life mean something, you better love them, you better respect them, you give truth and love. And I came up with the mantra a few years later. I appreciate it, brother. And said, if I don't do that, then I'm living my life in vain. And your mother lived her life in vain. And I know my mother was not put here to be a crack addict or an alcoholic. So I know her life, and I make her life mean something through how I live my life. It's and if I fail at my task, then my mother's life was meaningless, and my mother's life was not meaningless. So yeah. And if I fail, I want to die. No. Whenever you don't see me give somebody truth and love, I want to die. Life is over. All right, game over if that doesn't happen. Game over.
You got a long time left here, bro. You ain't failing.
No.
God got you here for a reason.
I was watching you out there on the floor with the people coming up to your table. You are not failing at all, my friend, at all. But let's come. You've taken both. You took different roads to wind up in 2009. How do you get into The Blind Side? Where do those scripts come from? How do you get there? How do you become Big Mike in Alton?
Big Mike.
Big Mike. I know, right? Michael.
I loved the way Sandy said
Mike.
that.
Oh, we'll get to Sandy.
It's scary how much I got down to a T. But my mom was the momager at the time, and she got me the audition. It was funny because I was already acting. I was doing student films and at NYU and stuff. And she wakes me up 3 o'clock in the morning one time because she didn't sleep. She was always up writing and everything. My mom was a writer. And so she wakes me up. I come in the room. I can't even open my eyes. She's like, read that. And I'm like, read it to me. So she starts reading me what was on the screen, and she said, who does that sound like? I said, that sounds like me. And so, because she's a writer, I'm assuming she's writing something for me or about me or whatever. And so she was like, all right, go back to bed. So she just wanted to know if what she was reading was right, and it did sound like me. So I go back to bed, wake up the next morning, and I'm on set for this project called Mr. Brooklyn. I'm out in Brooklyn shooting a short film. And she calls me around 11. It was around 11:30 or something because we was getting ready to go to break for lunch. And she goes, check your email. I just sent you the sides. You have an audition for the lead role in a major motion picture. I'm like, yeah, right, Mom, stop playing. It's not funny. And she's like, no, check him. So I opened the thing. I said, Mom, there's no, holy
Holy mushrooms.
sugar honey iced tea, you know? You know, and you know, I started reading it. It's at the time for 20th Century Fox, Searchlight, and it's just like my name's on there, the script's there, my name is, you know, black. I never been in that position until that time. So
That's a big jump.
you know what I mean? And I'm like, wait a minute, this is number one. I'm the face that's gonna drive this movie. Wow. Da, da, da. But I was like, wait, don't get ahead of yourself. This is just the audition. You know, so I'm like, okay, all right, let's go into this audition. And then, like, so the audition was like the next day. So I'm shooting the short film. In between breaks, I'm reading the sides because my mindset was I'm gonna go into this audition knowing every line on this project. I'm not looking down at the paper because it's gonna take me out of my role. So I went in there off book. There was 4 scenes that we did. And at the end of the 4 scenes, I witnessed something that I never witnessed from a casting director. There was a casting director, a casting assistant, 2 other people I didn't know in the room, and they were all crying. And I was like,
That either went really, really good or really, really bad.
you know what I mean? And like crying. First thought was in my head, because I'm stupid, I was like, did I fart? Then the lady, she gets up. Yeah, it was to myself. I said it to myself. Did I fart? And the casting director, Twinkie Bird, you know, Twinkie. Yeah, she jumps up and she goes, oh my God, we found our Michael.
Wow.
And I was like, and she came over and gave me a big hug. And then, you know, again, I'm real green in the industry, so I thought that meant I got the part right there. You know, like first audition, you got the part. Boom, bada bing. Little do we know, till this day, that first audition did land me the part, because that tape was sent to the director, who immediately called for a callback. And the next day I came back in, did the same scenes over again with his notes. After that, I was being flown out to LA to meet him in person. And then, because of the way Hollywood works, there was like a year and maybe 3 months of nothing. And I'm like, I was like, I went through a lot of different emotions, let's just say. There was one kid who put himself on IMDb as Michael Oher, and I was ready to catch a case that day, because I was like, I'm going to find him and kill him. This is my role. How dare he? Like, the role was for a dude that was 6'5", 320 at best. This kid was 6 feet, 200, and was a model for Nike. That's it.
That didn't work.
Too. So, but I didn't do that. I didn't, you know, I was just venting, but I didn't do that. And then come to find out, 20th Century Fox wanted Julia Roberts to play Leanne Tui. Julia Roberts kept saying no. So they shelved the project for like a year and 3 months. Once the project was open again, Gil Netter, who was the original producer, he did the Shack. He took the script and went over to Alton Entertainment, with who had distribution through Warner Brothers. They immediately started going after Sandra Bullock. She said no the first 2 times. And then the director was like, listen, go to Oxford, shadow Leanne for the weekend, you know, and come Monday, if you don't want to do it, I'll leave you alone.
And they told that to Sandra.
Told that to Sandra. So she went to Oxford and stayed with the family for the weekend. Leanne was like, she drove me nuts. She's in my house, she's wearing my clothes, she's flirting with my husband.
She's what with that?
Flirting with my husband. It's like, Sean loved it. I couldn't stand her. She had me rolling. Oh, man. And so it's Monday morning, she calls the director and said, okay, I'll do it. And then so that's when they called me. And
Finally.
yeah, exactly. This was like, So a lot happened in the year of 2008. I lost my mom, unfortunately. She passed away August 30th, 2008. But before she passed, I think it was like a day or two before she passed, she said, listen, I know you're worried about this movie. We haven't heard anything in over 9 months. Whatever's happening, don't worry about it. There's no way they're going to do this movie without you. That's what she said to me. 2 days later, she was gone. Me and my brother went through the coldest, loneliest winter in New York. And it was coldest and loneliest because we were in the apartment that we lost her in. I couldn't get a job to save my life. You know what I mean? I stayed in church, stayed coming home. I walked to my aunt's house who was feeding us. We lost all of our utilities and everything. We couldn't keep the lights on. So imagine winter in New York City with no electricity, no heat, no nothing. We were going to sleep at 6 o'clock because that's when it got dark and we didn't want to be awake in a dark apartment. So I was trying to get extensions on the place until I figured something out. And come February, I think it was like late February, I got the first job that I had all year, and it was a security job at Silver Cup Studios where they shoot 30 Rock, the TV show. So it was a 7-day job. On the end of that 7 days, I get paid $1,000 for it, and I'm like, all right, cool. End of the day, I get a phone call from the sheriff's department saying that we were being evicted in 72 hours and our doors are going to be padlocked. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll just go home, give me and my brother stuff. We'll go get a motel, figure it out from there. That was my thought process. Hang out with the sheriff. 30 seconds later, the phone rings again. And at that time, I see Tina Fey walking towards me. So I'm like, oh, it's not, this is Tina Fey. And I'm tripping because I'm a fan. I wanted to say hi, I wanted to meet her. But my phone's ringing. So I answer the phone. And it's my manager. She goes, Quinton, guess what? And so I'm looking at Tina Fey walking towards me, and she, Quinton, guess what? I said, The Blind Side. She goes, how'd you know? I said, what?
Called it.
Like, what? And then Tina stops and goes, what happened? She's like right there. And I was like, I gotta call back Tina Fey right now. So I hung up on her.
At that moment, Tina Fey is actually more important than that movie.
Just Tina Fey. I was like, so I hung up and she goes, what happened? And I said, I just landed the lead role in a major motion picture. Mind you, they didn't say any of that. I just hung up before getting that information. And so she was like, oh my God, wait, I thought you were a security guard. I said, correction, I was a security guard. Now I'm an actor. It was like if I had collars, I would have popped it. I'm just saying, And so she was like, congratulations, gave me a hug and everything, went on about her business. And I was like, oh, wait, I got to call back. So I called back and she goes, what happened? I said, I was at work. I'm at work. What's up? And so she said, so the production just called me from The Blind Side and they want to know if you still want to do the movie. I said, I hope you told them yes. And she said, yes, I did. Like, they're getting ready to call you. I said, all right, hang up. So she hangs up. Phone rings again. It's Tim Bourne, the line producer for the movie. He calls and asks me if I still wanted to do the movie. I said, let me check my schedule, Tim. Yes. And he goes, that's funny. You're a funny guy. He said, well, I want to get you down to Atlanta as soon as possible. I said, so define as soon as possible. He said, we get you down here in a couple of days. I said, I could come tomorrow. He goes,
right?
He goes, yeah, okay, all right, that's
just
cool.
need 2 tickets.
You know what I mean? And I was like, can I bring my brother with me? Because I kind of have no place to leave him. But no problem, we'll get you 2 first-class tickets to Atlanta, Georgia tomorrow. I was like, thank you, Jesus. I hung up the phone, I'm in the hallway crying.
Well, now we have our hero. What about our villain? How'd our villain get here?
Oh, I'm just so moved by that story. That's the power of perseverance, right? Yeah. That's what I'll answer that. I'm sorry. I just want to interject that. But that's what God has instilled in all of us, right? The indomitable spirit. Like, we can overcome anything If we focus and put our mind to it, we can do that. And that's what Q did. So I love that story.
That's a great story.
But my story is not as elaborate. I saw that script and I was like, whoa. Like, I know this guy like the back of my hand. And I looked at my wife and I was like, this role is mine. I said, this role is mine. I said, I don't care if they went to Juilliard or, NYC, Tisch or wherever. I said, this role, I don't think anybody can play the role the way I can play this role because I'd seen it so many times in my neighborhood. I read the script and I auditioned in a room with John Lee. I was in there with John Lee Hancock. I think Timothy was in there, Tim Bourne, and then, Finn Cannons. And they were in there. And as I was reading, going over my lines, I saw out of my periphery them smiling the whole time. I was like, I got him. I said, yeah, this is my role. But then it took a few weeks. I was like, man, what happened? The hurry up and wait thing.
The process.
Yeah, the process. And then I finally got that call. My wife was working for the Professional Standards Commission downtown. And I got that call and he said, you got the part? My agent, Howard Talent, here out of Atlanta. And I called my wife and told her, and we just went crazy. We went crazy.
As you should.
It took me 10 years to get an agent, guys. It took 10 years out of Georgia. I graduated from Georgia in 98. I got an agent in 2008, and I got the audition for The Blind Side a few weeks later. And I booked that role, but it was like, it's paying off now. But I'll tell you what led up to it. I'll tell you guys what led up to it. I wrote a play, a one-man show, because I just got tired of not getting an agent, not being able to get an agent. So I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna do my own thing. I wrote a play. It was called, at that time, IronE the Resurrected. And IronE is not my birth name. My birth name is Robert. I was born over at Grady Hospital. I'm a Grady baby. And I changed my name to IronE before I moved out to LA. I went out to LA in 2002.
Time out.
Yeah.
How am I just realizing that IronE wasn't your real name?
You knew that. You knew that, Q.
You ain't never told me that.
You didn't know that?
I looked it up online, though.
I was about to say, I know you knew that.
No, we never talked about that, though.
Well, IronE is a term I came up with that means an eagle in flight, an eagle with an unbroken spirit, meaning that whatever you go through, you can get through it with perseverance, faith, never giving up. And it served as an icebreaker for me when I got out to LA. Meeting people, and they're like, IronE, that's your name? I was like, yeah. So when I got back to Atlanta, because God told me out in LA, this is not the place for you. I was missing my family. My wife gave her permission, her blessings for me to go out to LA, but it just wasn't working out. I was out there by myself. I was lonely. I was miserable. Oh, cheese. I was miserable. And then I drove out there. I drove to LA in 37 hours, guys. From Atlanta to LA in 37 hours. Got back here to Atlanta and wrote a one-man show called IronE the Resurrected. God was like, whatever's gonna happen for you is gonna happen in Atlanta. Wrote that play, performed it, hour, 45 minutes on stage. I'm playing these different characters, 20 plus different characters on stage. And a casting agent got wind of it and found out about. I was also working on 12 Angry Men at the time too. So I was working on 2 shows, and my name was getting out there a little bit. And a TV show for BET. It was called Somebodies. So I don't know if you guys remember that. And so my name was getting around a little bit, and that agent contacted me and told me he wanted to represent me. This was Chase. And shortly after that, I went in, read for them. I even stopped. Cardinal sin, never stop your audition. That's a cardinal sin. You should never, as an actor, never stop your audition. But I was so confident then. I was like, God is at work right now. It didn't really matter to me. I started my audition. I just stopped. I said, nah. I don't like, I'll start over. They're like, whoa, who is he? Like, I'm a child of God. I mean, God is it's ordained, whatever's going to happen. So I finished that. They called me. They said they wanted to represent me. And a few weeks later, got the audition for The Blind Side. And the rest is history. So that's how it went down.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We've got a few minutes left. If anyone has a question, go ahead and head over to the mic. Let's talk about it now. So now you're both on set.
Yes, sir.
We got 5 minutes. Well, about 5 minutes left. Let's do it. Let's break the Sandra Bullock ice.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful character moment with her where you get to see her. Go ahead. Indulge us with your Sandra Bullock stories. Yeah. Go ahead. You know you want to.
Sandy, I was surprised when I finished shooting. She was sitting in the car. She was sitting in the fancy car she had. And, Sandy is so giving as a talent. She didn't have to be there. She chose to be there because that's how great she is. But she was sitting in the car when I said, hey, watch this, D. They always go for the wink. Watch it. Watch it. Bam. Yeah, snowflake. And I did that. She came over when I finished, because some of the stuff I improv.
Right.
You know, much of it was improv. She came over and I felt somebody tap me on the shoulder. She didn't have to be there. She tapped me on my shoulder. I turned around. She gave me a big hug. She was like, wow, you scared me. I don't know what I'm going to do from, you know, with all this good stuff you gave me. That was fantastic. And you couldn't tell me anything after that. I'm like, Sandy said that to me? But yeah, she was on. She said, I said, oh, thank you, Miss Bullock. She said, call me Sandy. I said, okay, Sandy. Yeah. But
Yeah, she was cool like that, definitely. I had some real good moments with her. We met probably 3 weeks before filming, because I was in the middle of training and stuff when I got there, when me and her met. And first time she runs into my arms, gave me a hug. It was like we known each other. I was gushing outside the door because I don't know. I had a crush on this woman since. Listen, Love Potion number 9.
Oh my! There's a throwback.
At the scene in the precinct when she came to bail out her friend, she had that makeover done, and all the cops was out. I was like, "Who is this?" You know what I mean? So but then interacting with her on set, and she's so funny, and we would mess with her, she'd mess with us back. She created this game where whenever someone gets emotional on set, we have to fake slap them, and then they have to react. And we'd be like, stop crying. So it was like something that Leanne would do. So, but she had the most emotional scene, so we were fake slapping the shit out of her.
Don't accidentally hit Sandra Bullock. Don't make sure it's fake.
The first time we did it on set was funny. It was me and her in a close-up. And the close-up, the way I swung my hand, it looked like I actually slapped her, and she reacted. There was cut. What did you do? I was got in trouble. They thought, she was, oh, no, we're playing. It's just a game. It was like, because they thought I really slapped her. It was so funny. I almost got shot that day.
We have a question over here.
Hi.
Hello.
Walking Dead is my favorite show, so I feel obligated to ask IronE, a.k.a. T-Dog, this question. Are you open, and can you please do an episode of Tales? Because every episode except for one, I did not care for none of them. I don't know these people.
Oh, man.
The way Tales was teased us, you might see some characters you haven't seen before, their backstory, blah, 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 and then we only got 1 out of the 6, which was Alpha D. So, are you open to do an episode of Tales?
I am open. I actually read for an episode. See, that tells me right there that Nicotero should have hired me.
Please. Gimbal, whoever doing it, because I can't take it.
I'm gonna hire you too.
I actually was going to ask if you weren't on. Had you been on Walking Dead, would you have wanted to been Team Rick or Negan or Whisper? Would you want to be a good guy or a bad guy?
Team Rick all the way. Team Rick all the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? True.
Yeah. I am open for it. So that's a discussion that Nicotero and I would have to have. So
okay.
Yeah.
I haven't watched all 6. I only watched the first one, and I was so mad I didn't even get to the third one.
Wow.
Which is the only one that I wanted to watch. So I'm gonna watch all 6 of them. But please help us out.
All right.
I think we got time for one more.
So this is for IronE.
Yes, sir.
So I'm a disabled veteran, and your story was very, very helpful. It meant a lot to me. I've been through panic attacks, night terrors, suicide attempts, and I'm still here.
Oh, no.
You know, your guys' movie, like I told Quinton yesterday, was the first movie I saw when I got to Iraq. We didn't have things like theaters and stuff, so unfortunately it was a bootleg movie. I'm sorry for it. I did buy the movie afterwards. But it's just the impact you guys had on my time in Iraq and stuff like that in the movies. Even Safety, I love that movie too. And The Walking Dead is one of my favorite shows ever.
Awesome.
So I just want to say thank you. And what was it like to play with Kirby Smart and now seeing him as the head coach of the, championship team?
Man. You said we have 5 minutes, 5 minutes ago. I want to just...
You know what? We started late. Technically, we're done. You can have 60 seconds.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank you, brother, for your your contribution, for your sacrifice. I appreciate you. You allow us to do what we do, and for that I'm very thankful. I did a fundraiser in Salem, Massachusetts for the Wounded Warrior Fund, and we raised big bucks there. And there's actually a panel we have, and I think it's circulating on the internet or something like that. So I would encourage you all to go out and check that out as well. But as far as Kirby is concerned, there was something else I wanted to add to that, what you said, but I can't quite remember that part. It may come back to me. If my 60 seconds aren't up. Okay.
TikTok.
Kirby. Oh, I love Kirby. Kirby was a coach then in the locker room when we were there as student athletes. Just the way he carried himself. You know, he was our captain. He was our captain because not because he was the greatest player or the greatest athlete. He just had the demeanor, the disposition of a coach. And so it wasn't surprising to me when his name was put in that hat to become the coach for UGA. I mean, look at what he had done at Alabama. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, if we get that opportunity to get Kirby, we need to jump on it. And he wasn't at the top of that list. So I was like, Kirby is the guy for this job. And I started my little campaign myself. I'm like, Kirby Smart, okay? And when he got the job, I knew that we were on our way. I love Rick because I love Rick's faith and what he's about, everything he represents, and turning those young men into mature young men, right? So I love that. But I knew Kirby had the fire and the desire and what it was necessary to get us to the promised land. Mm-hmm. So I was very happy and still am to this day.
Well, Kirby's a great coach. He really is, obviously. So to wrap it up real quick, The Blind Side, a lot of that kind of attitude, that motivation, that support, that drive, Leanne Tui brought it, to Mike, the real Mike. Sandra Bullock brought that to the film, and that film brings that to people. What do you both want that film to be remembered for? What do you want people to take from it? And then we'll let these fine people go back out there and visit you at your tables.
To be remembered for the love that it exuded. There's two different people from different walks of life who came together and meant so much to one another. That's the prime example of what we need to represent in this world today. Set aside segregation, set aside race, skin color. Let's unify and love one another. I feel like that's what that movie did, and so many people related to the message because they know what struggle is like. They know what it feels like to be an outcast. They know what it feels like to be in the situation that Michael Oher was, or, rather you experienced it yourself or you've seen it firsthand from somebody you know. But I think we all need to do a better job of getting to know one another. We're only strangers because we don't know each other's names. You change that by introducing yourself, being nice. There's no need for unkind things to be said or exchanged. Get to know them. Once you know people, you see how amazing they are. And it makes you feel so much more safe and protected instead of always being guarded and closed off. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. So. Amen.
Excellent. IronE?
To quickly add to that, what Brother Q said, he said love. I want to add truth to that. That's been my mantra since 2000, 2001. Truth and love, because I say truth without love is aimless or ineffective at best. Love without truth is false. People say you love, there's no truth involved. Exactly. And that's false. So I just want to end with that. Truth and love.
Excellent.
Love you guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
IronE Singleton and Quinton Aaron, everyone. Make sure you visit them out there on the floor.
Hey, this is Alex Malari Jr., and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Your Emperor commands it. Thanks for watching.